Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Good afternoon, folks. Good morning. Whatever time of day. We're back as we always are, as we do every single day. Every single day. Like my man, remember when was it Shady McCoy back when he did the crazy no, Shady McCoy. He was on the I Am when they had the I Am Athlete podcast. I gave him crazy work. Crazy work. Back when he did crazy work. It was a thing where they were talking. He was what was the dude's name? It was one of the Miami linebackers, and you had Shady McCoy on there. I gave him crazy work. You got his number? I gave him crazy work. Crazy work. I gave him crazy work. I gave him crazy work. Crazy. Crazy work. Oh man, classic. This was back when I Am Athlete was an actual thing. Back when I Am Athlete was a pot, like one of those popping podcasts. You know, a lot of them come and go, man. A lot of them come and go. Very few stick to it and are here day in and day out. Just do it without the guest. Can do it with the guest, with or without the guest. We're just bringing it to you raw and uncut. This is what we do here, straight up and down. Happy Win-Trapreneur Wednesday. Win-Trapreneur Wednesday. If you don't know what that means, I'll get to it in a second. However, I do have to introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world, may be new to this channel. Be sure you're liking, you're commenting, you're subscribing, you're sharing this out. We're going places, folks. All right, so first and foremost, my name, because I know it can be difficult to pronounce, but there's people who've known me for years who don't even know how to pronounce it the correct way, to be 100% honest with you. So I'm constantly reintroducing myself. All right, so the name, it is Aswan Cruikshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time, very soon, I'm soon going to drop that five-time, soon to be six-time published author and educator. What I do, what I created, the brand I created is all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses and business owners so they have a group of employees, they have a staff that moves as efficiently, as proactively, as that's hungry and eager and has that passion that you see from a championship high school or youth football team. Specifically, high school and youth football team, you want your staff running like that, because as you can see, when you get to the professional rank and you get to the college level of athletics, it turns into a business that is just all contract seasonal business. It's basically a seasonal contract based business at the professional level. And I get a lot of, the reason I landed on what I'm doing now, I kind of fell into it because my goal was to work in pro sports. I wanted to be working for a professional sports team. I did get that goal when I was 28 or 29 or something like that. And I worked for the Miami Dolphins Foundation. And I learned a lot from the business side. All right, the business side. And basically the reason I tell you all as business owners, you really actually want your team, want your organization running like youth or high school, because what I learned playing college football and then working for an NFL team, and then just, I honestly just growing up a damn Redskins fan where they always switch their coaches, is you see at the professional, at the college level, it leads to more turnover. And as I paid so much attention to that level, that game, that I've learned how to avoid turnover. I've learned strategies and come up with things and created opportunities in which you are avoiding turnover. You're reducing the amount of turnover. The pros and the college level, they're literally just a turnover. It's turnover over and over. It's seasonal work. Seasonal contracts, seasonal thing. Everything is based on what you do that season. It's seasonal work. All right. And I could not be, I'm super pumped to talk to you. I'm telling you all this because it's leading me into the topic in which we're going to be discussing today. All week, I have been telling you what my flaws are. I've opened up. I've let you know, hey, I'm not perfect at this. You're not perfect at that. However, there are advantages to, number one, admitting where your flaws are and using these flaws, using these things in an advantageous way, because this is how you are. You're going to position yourself to put these type of people around you, which has been very helpful to me throughout the week. Now, today, we're going to talk about how you expose the flaws in your competitors so you win. because today's Win-Trapreneur Wednesday, all right? And we'll be using the example. My favorite examples to give are of the football nature. We're going to be talking about the Super Bowls, all right? We're going to talk about the game of football. The stage was set. The stage was set. You had Tom Brady, you had Cam Newton, you had Pat Mahomes, you had Peyton Manning, you had all these Hall of Fame quarterbacks, everybody, MVPs, this, that, man, they about to ride off into the sunset, all of that. And then they get to the Super Bowl, folks, and they run up against a D-line that isn't having it, Slim. That's not having it. That's not having it. All right, so we're going to be talking about how we can expose flaws in other folks' business, whoever your competitor is, whatever it is, whatever type of business you're in, and who is not doing the things, or how to find certain things that that you can use to ultimately win your game, whatever your game is. We're going to be like, one of my superpowers is translating what goes on in the football world and translating that into business. So before we get too deep into the topic, however, let me get through two really quick announcements really for you. First and foremost, it is free guide. All right, freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Now, particularly you business owners who struggle, or anybody that's in a leadership role that is trying their best, to get the people who work for them or work underneath them, whoever they hired, you're trying your best to get them to get it, to get them to be passionate, to get them hungry, to get them figuring out how their role in the company. I mean, speaking of football, one of the things that we had back when I played at Stony Brook is there was a player in particular. He came, I played in Stony Brook, it's in New York. So came from Miami. So every recruit and everybody that's played college football knows this. Every time you get somebody coming in the locker room that's from Florida, particularly South Florida, they walk around like dick is 12 inches long. They walk around like they just the best thing known to football. Like they invented damn football in Florida, right? Not to say that they're not the best when it comes to high school football, but the players, they walk around with a swag, a confidence that they just, because they came from Florida. So anyway, we had one guy, he came in the locker room during the spring. And as we got to the fall, he started to understand his role. His role was not going to be the starting linebacker. His role was going to be the guy that's running down on kickoffs, running down on punts, making sure he's blocking on kick returns, things like that. His role. And I'm bringing that up because a lot of you business owners have the issue. You have the issue of getting people to understand their damn role. You don't know how to do it. All right, straight up. You just don't know how to do it. You don't know how to really get people to understand the role. You're going out, you're throwing out titles at this one. You're throwing out information. You're trying to do this, trying to do that. But you got to get people to understand what their role is going to be. Their role. All right. There's a big difference between having a job that's just paying you and you're doing it to pay the bills, and having a role. What's your role going to be? All right. If that sounds like you, I need you to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com to start the process. All right. Start the process towards really understanding how to create roles and make it so people understand their roles. All right. I created a 10-step. It's really just a 10-step, 10 bullet points in which you can utilize right now to implement in your business. All you got to do is go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. You just put in your phone name, first and last name, a phone number, and an email. It could be a phone number from your business. Obviously, if you don't want to give out your personal number like that, totally understand that as well. Or email something in which I could send the free guide to you so you have it and you can start putting this thing to work. All right, because it's a very simple math problem. It is establishing measurables and then a professional distance that leads to the productive environment. Those are the things that you need to have happen yesterday. And if you don't have these things, eventually your business will be on the chopping block. So it's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. And there you can book a meeting with me as well. And if you do want to move forward, if you feel like you're ready to move forward, you're like, look, I want to actually pay someone to come in here and teach these lazy mofos how to get their ass in line, how to start moving swiftly, how to start getting going and all that. you can do that as well. Just go to makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. You can do your research on me there. You can book me to come speak. You can learn more about me. You can listen to the podcast. You may be listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast. You can listen to the podcast there. You can shop there. You can purchase my books. Whatever it is you need, it's right there. It's your one-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. All right. So all that being said, let's get into what we're going to be discussing today. If you're looking at this on either Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, you see an article with an image from this past Super Bowl with Pat Mahomes getting absolutely harassed. All right. Before I even start reading through the article and, walking you through it and stuff like that, I want you guys to just look at that picture for a second and think back to, what was it, 4 months ago now? Yeah, about 4 months ago, when it was supposed, the way the writers had it written, the story was supposed to go. Here we go. Pat Mahomes about to win his third Super Bowl in a row, ready to write the script. And he's going to be the greatest quarterback to have ever played the game. There were people on the accredited sources. There were people on the internet who were believing that and wholeheartedly believing that this was going to be it. This was going to make Pat Mahomes officially the GOAT. Officially, all right? There's still people out there who believe Pat Mahomes is already the GOAT. All right, already the greatest of all time, already the greatest quarterback to have ever played. I disagree with those people. Not to say he's not an amazing talent. Not to say he's been able to do some incredible things and he's going to be in the conversation. I just don't know if you can just dub him GOAT status yet. All right, but if they would have won, if he would have been the only quarterback and taken his team to 3 straight no team in the NFL has ever won 3 straight Super Bowls. All right. So they had their opportunity. It was right there for the taking. And everyone was like, okay, this is it. Pat Mahomes is going to solidify himself as the GOAT. Not happening tonight. I watched the game. Listen to me, man. I watched the Eagles dominate. Dominate up front, and there was absolutely nothing that you can do. In fact, before I even go for it, because this is why I'm against this whole argument. When I first got back into writing articles. Let me see if I can go back real quick. Give me a second. I didn't plan on doing this, but give me a couple seconds here, guys. Because when I first started writing articles, it was around the time in which the Chiefs and Eagles played each other. They played each other. Let's see if I can pull it up really, really quick. They played each other that first Super Bowl, all right? And I wrote an article titled A Championship Business. So as you can see, I've written a lot since then. A championship business, Super Bowl champion business. And it was kind of similar. It was very similar to, let me see if I can find it. Yes, it's coming up soon. It was very similar. Let me see if I can pull it up. 1 second. Podcast listeners, give me a moment here for me to pull this up real quick. Man, it's bringing back memories just looking at all these. Yeah, it is. It's bringing back a whole lot of memories just looking at all these articles. Man, it's been a journey. All right, let me see. It's coming up soon. It is coming up soon. If I could find it. Yep, because this was back when Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, boy. Oh my goodness, man. We going back. All right. As you can see, September 5th, 2023. This is when I first kind of got back into writing articles and stuff like that. And I talked about when Pat Mahomes, and this is the first line in that paragraph, says, as glamorized and heartwarming as it was to watch the 2-time MVP of the National Football League, Patrick Mahomes, lead the Kansas City Chiefs to another Super Bowl win on what seemed to be a broken ankle, Pat Mahomes is one of 53 players that equally contributed to the Kansas City Chiefs being crowned the 2023 Super Bowl champions. All right. So if you can recall that game in 2023, when they eventually beat the Eagles, Pat Mahomes was limping around and he was making plays. And again, I'm not going to take away from that. I thought that was one of the most inspiring performances that you can give, all right, that you can make. And he solidified himself as one of the ones that can be in the conversation. But you can't put him in GOAT status or you can't put him in GOAT. Let me start that. Say you can't put him in GOAT status because there was other holes to be filled. There was other things that happened to make it so they won that game. So what happened was, and then let me skip through it real quick. So watching the game between this is back in the 2023 one. Watching the game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, most who've watched a ton of football growing up would have noticed that the Eagles actually outplayed them. They outplayed the Chiefs for the majority of the game. Overall, it was a very evenly matched contest. The one play that made the difference was the 65-yard punt return by Kadarius Toney, all right? What happened is the game was played very equally, and then there was a big punt return that, kind of broke the game wide open. They broke the game wide open, and then Pat Mahomes was able to beat Pat Mahomes. When he won the Super Bowl it was San Francisco. When they beat San Francisco that year, again, the D-line for Kansas City was able to kind of control Brock Purdy. They were able to control what the San Francisco 49ers offense wanted to do, and then they led into that overtime win. They beat Kansas City. They beat San Francisco twice. Yeah, they beat San Francisco twice. They beat them once. It was once in Miami, and then they beat the Eagles. So that gives them the 3 Super Bowls. Now, again, when it came to this year and what they were trying to portray this year as he's going to be the guy, the thing that happened, the thing that eventually happened was what? Let me go back to the one that came out today. Hold on 1 second. Let me get all of this back. I didn't plan on talking about that guy, by the way, guys. So give me a moment while this internet. Come on. Hello. All right, there we go. All right. Yes. So when it comes to this year, they're in the process. They're getting ready to solidify themselves as 3-time Super Bowl, 3 in a row. And when you watch the game, you realize, oh man, there's some holes that are being exposed. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because it's very applicable to your business. It's very applicable to you as a potential Win-Trapreneur, right? There are times in which I do these Win-Trapreneur Wednesdays in which I'll just feature myself because I'm the ultimate Win-Trapreneur, or I will feature somebody else that I've seen and, they're doing this and they're doing that. And I'll tell you, hey, that's an example of a Win-Trapreneur. In fact, before literally, and I keep going. I'll get to the article at some point, but I want to give you guys enough context here. If you go back to the actual Super Bowl, all right, if you go back to the actuals, because I do these every Wednesday, if you go back to the actual week of the Super Bowl, I wrote an article about their coach, Andy Reid, as being a Win-Trapreneur, right? Because Andy Reid used to coach. He used to be the head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles before he got to Kansas City. And I was talking about how he really can't lose because this is his former team. This was the team that he built a culture around, and now he's going against the former team with his new team getting ready to write off. And then also what was being said, not only was Patrick Mahomes going to be like the greatest player of all time and all that stuff that media folks like to say, but now Andy Reid now is going to be the greatest coach of all time because now it's his former team, all that kind of stuff. So all of that's going on and all the talk is happening. However, what the result ended up being was about straight up, can you be the better player that day? All right. So when we're talking about exposing flaws, you got to really sit back and first of all, you got to sit with your flaws. You got to sit with your flaws like I've done all week. I've sat with my flaws. Like I said, I called my girl last week. I called my mom last week, and I asked them to, talk me through some of the things I need to be improving on. I thought about it myself and some of the ways I've been burnt in the past and the reason why certain things didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. And I sat with these flaws and I said, okay, how can this be an advantage? So when you see a situation like this, and when we're talking football, you see very talented quarterback, obviously, but there's certain things that they could have done that the Eagles were able to match up against well and say, we're going to expose that. All right. In my opinion, it's the reason that the New York Knicks fired their coach. Not only a week, it's not been a week since. It's not that I was against the firing, but I think the reason that they fired the guy is because they lost to the same team that they lost to a year ago. So the matchups, the way it matched up, it is like, hey, I don't want this guy. I don't want to be losing to the same team. They didn't care about the fact that he took the team to the Eastern Conference Finals. What I believe they cared about was the fact that you lost to the same team you lost a year ago, which again, I'm against that in general. But for the most part, this is the point we're making. When you're going against competitors and everyone has competition, we're all in business, so we're all in competition with somebody. You got to understand, exposing flaws has got to be a habit of yours, and you got to take advantage of it. So let me get to the article before I start talking too much. Whenever the topic is directly correlated to football, I can get off on a tangent. This is why you guys gotta get at me. If you're listening, major networks, if you're listening, make sure you get at me to do some of this play-by-play. Holla at me on some of the play-by-play, man. Get at me. We got film session Saturday coming. It's gonna be this week. We're actually gonna be talking about the Texas versus Arizona State. I'm gonna be breaking you down with that game. Get at me with some of this play-by-play. You need this, folks. All right, let me get into the article. So, reading directly from the article, podcast listeners, again, be sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're coming at you all day, every day. All right, Win-Trapreneur Wednesday. Exposing flaws is how you win. Just ask the Giants and Eagles D-lines, all right, by Aswan Kirkshank. We're officially in June, and what better way to kick off the month than with what better way to kick off the month than with the first Win-Trapreneur Wednesday? Now, before we dive in, a quick reminder of what a Win-Trapreneur is. A Win-Trapreneur is someone with a strong entrepreneurial vision for their life who's also been fortunate enough to find a job that aligns with that vision and pays them every 2 weeks. Sometimes I use these Wednesdays to feature others. Most of the time, it's personal lessons from my own journey navigating entrepreneurship while staying locked into real-world systems. But today's about something different. It's about exposing flaws, not your own, your competitors. Because sometimes the fastest route to victory isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared to exploit what's not perfect in the other team. Let me explain. D-lines are better than QBs, a football lesson in flaw exposure. Let's rewind to 3 Super Bowls that shook the sports world. 2008 and 2012. The New York Giants defeat the GOAT, Tom Brady. All right, Captain Tom, good old Tom Brady. All right, we all love us some Tom Brady, right? We love us some Tom Brady. And I was shocked. I'll tell you, as a Redskins, I'm a absolutely diehard Redskins fan. Now, my mother, on the other hand, she's a Giants fan. She roots for all the New York teams. So, I was somewhat happy for her, but still, obviously you want to see your boys win. But let me tell you, it was the first one. So 2008 was the first one, and that was probably the shocker. And the reason I thought of this as a topic was because I remember how I was feeling in 2008 when that shit actually happened. It's crazy. I could not believe what the hell I was witnessing. I was living in East Jefferson City, Tennessee, because I was in college. I went to Carson Newman College, and it was in my freshman year. So I was in the second semester of my freshman year. I had just torn my ACL, so I'm just watching the game now. At this point, I'm sidelined because of a major injury, and I'm just watching the game of football. I can't really I can't engage the way I would have if I wasn't injured, because, I'm usually out there active, working out, talking to the guys. But when you get an injury like that, you're kind of isolated from the team. And the only thing you really have is TV and, what's going on in the NFL and all that kind of stuff. So all year, it was, can the Patriots go undefeated? They went undefeated the entire year, man. They had Tom Brady and Randy, that dude Moss, boy. Like, do you understand the kinds of things that we were watching? I remember I called my boy, one of the guys I played with back in my youth days, and we were talking during the season, and he goes, bro, I just feel like I want them to go undefeated just to say I witnessed that, just to say I was able to witness a team that dominant. This is Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Randy Moss, boy. Do you know the kind of let me tell you, man, listen. So they get to the end of the season. Now, here's what started happening. This was a trend. This started happening a couple of years before, because the Eagles, speaking of the Eagles had the receiver. His name is Terrell Owens. So T.O. is also a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And he got injured, I'd say, that last game, sort of towards the end of the season, even though they were on their way to the playoffs. And ever since then, there's been this thing now where if you lock up a playoff spot, then you want to rest your players. You want to rest them until the regular season, stuff like that. So we get to that last game of the season. It's the Giants taking on the New England Patriots in New York, in the Meadowlands, right? And they didn't rest them. Rest their players. Them boys went at it. They went at it. If you go back and you watch A Football Life with Tom Coughlin, you hear how much it meant to people like football aficionados like myself, how much it meant to see the Giants. This is Boston, this is New York, this is sports town, boy, Northeast. So you had Brady, Moss, you had Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, you had all them boys. Look, O.C. Human-Yor, you had all them boys, Eli Manning, all them boys, all the big names. The bright lights was out. It's just like how the series we just had with Boston and New York. Whenever you get that Boston New York matchup, it's big money. It's big money. People getting paid. Somebody getting paid. So you had the Boston-New York rivalry, and you had the Giants trying to take them out because they wanted to. Actually, Antonio Pierce was on as he was the linebacker on that team as well. But so you had the Giants trying to be that team that gives the Patriots their first loss in that regular season. And it was a battle. It was a battle back and forth. And that was it. They finished the regular season undefeated because the Patriots won that one. And then lo and behold, that what the commentators were saying, and this I kind of agreed with what they were saying, because they were saying that the Giants now developed confidence. They had confidence that they could stick with any team out there. So they came in as a wild card. They didn't come in with a first round bye. The Giants come in as a wild card, and they get all the way to the Super Bowl. And who do they match up against? Oh boy. Oh. They match up with the New England motherfucking Patriots. It's like, and I had a feel because, again, I'm in the football world. I know the football world. I eat it. I sleep it. I breathe it. Okay. So as I'm watching it, and my roommate at the time, I looked at him as kind of a fair weather Patriots fan. I had to kind of let it go because he said he follows Randy Moss, right? Randy Moss had a big following. So my roommate at the time, he's like, yeah, I'm a root for the Patriots because I follow Randy Moss. And, whenever I see whatever team Randy Moss is on, I'm a cheer for them. So he was a Patriot fan, quote unquote. I think it's bullshit, but I was like, whatever. And so he was really into it because he was expecting that his team was going to go take it all, win, go undefeated and all that. And I've been looking at it, I'm like, football, I know football too much to just think it's going to happen like that. The Giants got to know something got to go down to where it just isn't going to happen, right? So what did we see? This image that I have right here in the middle where Michael Strahan is flexing while Tom Brady is on the ground. What happened was there was pressure all game. It was like that in 2008, and it was also like that in 2012. They beat them because their D line did not stop pressuring them. They did not stop going. And when you expose that weakness, you expose the weakness of my D line's better than your offensive line. I don't give a shit how great your quarterback is, because obviously you're dealing with the greatest one. The greatest one you're going to find is Tom Brady, right? And it didn't matter. So, okay, that's 2008, that's 2012. Let's go back to just a couple months ago, 2025. 2025, the Philadelphia Eagles dominate Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. If you're a football, I'm reading directly from the article now for my podcast listeners. All right. So if you're a football fan or just someone paying attention, you know these weren't fluke wins. They were strategic beatdowns delivered by teams that knew exactly what flaw to target. All right. So as I'm getting you there, when it comes to what flaws to target, they knew, all right, I got a solid D line. I might not have to blitz. If you go and look at the stats, look at the damn stats. All right, look at the stats from last year's Super Bowl with the Eagles and the Chiefs. The Philadelphia Eagles did not run one blitz. For those of you who do not know what a blitz is where you sacrifice pass coverage by blitzing one of your linebackers or one of your DBs in order to get some pressure on the quarterback. When you do that against a great quarterback, a la the Patrick Mahomes or the Tom Brady's of the world, they're recognizing the blitz is fast enough, they're avoiding it, and the person that was responsible for covering X receiver, they're seeing it and they're throwing it to that person and they're exploiting the blitz. So when a defense has to blitz, then you got a big problem because you're now sacrificing your coverage. So when you look at the pressure that the Eagles were able to get on Patrick Mahomes without blitzing, that's where the major stat is. It's the fact that they didn't have to blitz to get this pressure, and you had guys in coverage, and this is what led to Patrick Mahomes having such a shitty performance, is the fact that he wasn't able to really get in the rhythm because the front four D lineman was able to get pressure on him without having to sacrifice these guys that are responsible for coverage. Now, when it comes to the way Andy Reid likes to call the games, I've watched Andy Reid for years. Again, I grew up a Redskins fan, a diehard Washington Redskins fan. He does a lot of screenplays. He does a lot of screen passes. All right. He's going to, do certain things with Travis Kelce. He's going to kind of pretend this one's out here. Then they had my man from Texas. I can't even, what's his name? The receiver that they just got out of Texas. I mean, he ran the fast. Xavier Worthy. Yeah, they had Xavier Worthy, and Xavier Worthy, he had a lot of screen passes with him, and then they had Isaiah Pacheco. So they do a lot of things when it comes to the screen passes to where you need your D-line rushing and being very disciplined. And if you're blitzing too much, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes will straight up eat your ass up. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to play the Chiefs, especially an Andy Reid type offense, and you don't want to make it so you have to blitz, because you got a big problem if you're relying too much on the blitzing. All right. So as I'm back to the article now, they were strategic beatdowns delivered by teams that knew exactly what to target. Let me just make it a little bigger there for you guys to see. All right. The Giants and the Eagles didn't win these games because they had flashier offense. They did not. If you can recall, they did not. All right. They had Eli Manning and Jalen Hurts as a good quarterback. He keeps it very basic. He's more of a, I like to compare him as like a better version of Russell Wilson, to where he has the speed, he has the composure, he has the ability to do a lot of things. Same thing with Eli, is you're not going to lose again, which is a great thing, but they're not, between Jalen Hurts and Eli Manning, if you're comparing them to a Pat Mahomes or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, they're not that, which isn't me. That's not me. That's not diss to them, or it's not a slight on them. It's just that their style is a little different, and they're going to just kind of take what the defense gives them. They're not going to be overly excessive in terms of how they win. Because if you can recall, Eli Manning had that Brandon Jacobs with him. They had a solid run game that opened up a lot of things for Eli Manning. I know they had Plaxico Burress and all that kind of stuff, but overall, the reason I kind of I don't know. I'm on the fence with the whole conversation about Eli Manning being a Hall of Famer. I really am. I'm on the fence with it because I just look at his major signature Super Bowl wins and I say, wasn't it the defense? And then I'm a defensive guy. I'm a little biased, obviously, if you couldn't tell. I'm like, did he really go out and win those, like get them done? Or was it more the D lines that he had and things like that? So again, you can debate me if you want, but I'm still on the fence about Eli Manning being a Hall of Famer. Now, his brother, obviously, that's first ballot. Peyton was first ballot. So he's not his brother. We could all agree that he's not his brother, and he's calling out this one, and he's making this play, and he's chopping back. He's coming in. He's audible in this and seeing this and hitting cats on the money. He wasn't his brother, but who is, right? Who is his brother? In fact, I can't wait to see. Man, I'm so excited for football season. I can't wait to see Arch Manning, the one from Texas. They're talking about him being the number 2 quarterback in the country coming out of Texas. So we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see. Football needs to hurry up and get here, man. Struggling out here without my game. All right. So the strategic. Let me get back to the article, folks. Actually, let me get a sip of water because. All right, so the Giants and Eagles didn't win these games because they had flashier offenses. They won because they had defensive lines that exposed the one weakness neither Brady nor Mahomes could outrun: relentless pressure. It's easy to crown a quarterback as the savior, but it's the D-line that exposes whether he's got the protection to actually deliver. And this isn't just an NFC East brag. Though myself, as a lifelong Washington fan, let me have that moment. Let me have the moment because I'm telling you, I did a whole live stream during that time talking about how if you come up in the Northeast, if you grew up in the Northeast area, you're the best coaches. And obviously, a little biased, but the Northeast area where I grew up, Maryland, whether it's Maryland, New York, Philly, Pennsylvania, Philly, Pennsylvania, obviously, Connecticut, Boston, all that. I believe we have the best coaches. All right, I put it like this: coach, you got to have a coach that has Northeast mindset, like a Northeast coach, Florida athletes, a blue collar mentality like you're from the Midwest, a swag like you're from Cali, and a just eat, sleep, and shit football as if you are from Texas. I wonder if I still have the thumbnail for that. I wonder if I still have it here. Hold on, give me a second. I might actually have it here. Give me a second. No, I took it down. So it's on YouTube somewhere. It's on YouTube somewhere because that's actually when I really was diving into the live streams. Anyway, let me finish out the article. So it's easy to crown the quarterback and savior of the franchise, but it's the D-line that exposes whether he's got the protection to actually deliver. And it isn't just an NFC East brag, though. As a lifelong Washington fan, let me have that moment. This same dynamic. All right, now pay attention because this is where I'm going to start transitioning it to how you can run your business and how you can think about these things as you're running your business. So this same dynamic has played out again and again. The Seahawks blew out Peyton Manning and the Broncos, right? So even though I mentioned Peyton Manning as being that dude, all right, all right, first ballot Hall of Famer, that shit did not matter when he went to Denver and that first Super Bowl when they went to Denver and the Seahawks straight up dominated him. All of his years with Indianapolis when he went up against the Patriots, why was he consistently losing? Was because the Patriots defense brought it. They brought it, boy. They brought it. Whether it was Asante Samuel, whether it was Ty Law, whether it was Willie McGinnis, Teddy Brisky, Mike Vrabel, it didn't matter. So it didn't matter. I remember watching those games, boy. They came at it. They said, look, Peyton Manning can complete all the passes he wants, but just make sure that those receivers feel it. They got to feel it every single time. And if you break down those games, you saw that they were giving Peyton Manning those quick, short out routes. And these safeties and these corners were coming up and straight up knocking the shit out of these wideouts. Like, boom, 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 all day. And there's nothing Peyton Manning could do. And all the Bulls and all that, nothing he can do. All right. So Seahawks blew out Peyton Manning's Broncos. Von Miller wrecked Cam Newton's Super Bowl dreams. Remember that year. Remember all of that stuff. The whole year, for virtually the whole year, Cam Newton and the Panthers they dabbing on folks, and they doing this, and they doing little dances, and Cam Newton's doing his thing, and he's bobbing, and he's feeling himself. He's feeling himself the whole year. They get to the Super Bowl, and you got Von Miller and them boys just straight. Nah, we ain't doing all that. We ain't doing all that. Actually, I have the thumbnail right here. So we ain't doing all that. It was different. It was different, dog. It was different. So, you had that, and then Aaron Donald snatched the Joe Burrow moment from the Rams. Now, Joe Burrow, if you remember, Heisman coming out of LSU, a lot of hype around him, number 1 overall pick. He takes the Cincinnati Bengals to a Super Bowl. They beat the Chiefs on the way. They beat the Chiefs. They beat Mr. Patrick Mahomes, the legendary Pat. They beat him on the way to the Super Bowl. That had them cats calling it Burrowhead. All right. Didn't lose to the Chiefs and all that. You get to the Super Bowl. You run up against Aaron Donald and them boys. Not happening. And this was a Cali, so they was all set up for the Rams. It was in LA. They won they were the first team to ever win a Super Bowl in their hometown. All right. So each time, going back directly to the article, because I see I'm running out of time here. It happens when I start talking football. You guys just wait for the season, man, because we're gonna be getting into this. So each time, the same story. The face of the team was great, but the foundation cracked under pressure. What does this have to do with business? Everything, folks. It has everything to do with your business. In today's AI-fueled, fast-paced, hype-heavy business world, too many people chase the flash, the tech, the titles, the trends, the quarterback, what's going to sell this and too many people chase those titles and stuff like that. But if you want to build a real resilient brand, if you want to win contracts, win clients, and win trust, you got to build like a D-line. You got to build on principle, not hype. You got to go over and tell people, hey, this is what I'm about. This is how we're going to improve and create the foundation for you to launch on, and that you can build on that foundation day in and day out, so you have a chance to win every single day, not just get one hire right, not just get one person right. Like, again, this is why I was so against, personally, I'm so against the draft and all the hype that they give these quarterbacks. Is, man, you talking about a draft where the team has been struggling. You need to be figuring out how you can build a base, how you can build a foundation, so whatever quarterback comes in, all right, they got the right O-line, they got the right D-line, they got the right run game, they got the right wideouts, and it's like you take the keys to the kingdom, man. You take the keys to the car, and you drive that motherfucker to the Super Bowl. But you can't just pick a quarterback and expect, okay, I'm going to blink, and all of a sudden the franchise is going to turn around. It don't work like that. Same thing in business. All right, you can't just get one high. You can't just get one person and expect the whole thing to just put everything on one person. Because here's what happens in business: if this person is actually good, they're going to start to say, "Why even work for this company? I'm going to just go out and do it on my own." All right, that's probably what's going to happen, which what leads to the turnover issue. You have to make sure the foundation is where it needs to be. Bring in the right people, and then you may get lucky with a talented person, but the talent needs to be nurtured with solid foundation. All right, let me get through the art because I'm running out of time here. I'm trying to keep myself talking too much before the 45-minute mark. All right, so if you want to build real you win contracts, not that. So here's how that looks. You don't get caught up in the excitement of a new tool. You learn how to prompt AI better than anyone else. You learn how to prompt it. That takes a human brain. You learn how to prompt it with a human brain. All right, you don't just decide, okay, I'm going to hire this one. No, you prompt it with a human brain and what actually your organization needs to be about. You don't depend on one superstar hire. You develop systems that allow everyone to perform. It goes back to what I told you guys at the beginning. Make sure you're establishing measurables and everybody has their own responsibilities of what they need to be doing. You don't fall in love with being the founder. You focus on being the functional first. I'm going to say it again. Say it again for the people in the back, because this title of being the founder and CEO is something I see on social media all the fucking time, and it's stupid. You don't fall in love with being the founder. You focus on being functional first. Functional means, do you have a system in place that's getting in front of the right people and that's creating revenue for you? Do you have some solid principles in place? And then you can, whatever title you want to give yourself is the title you give yourself. All right. You don't focus on titles, just focus on what the function and what you're all about is. Success comes from exposing flaws in your competition, in the market, and yes, sometimes in yourself, is what we saw throughout this entire week, right? But it only works if you've built an identity that is solid, grounded, and consistent. Because no matter how good your quarterback is, you don't win without protection. You don't win without pressure. You don't win without a team that does the dirty work. Final thought: pressure makes the play. Whether you're a business owner, manager, employee with vision, you've got to start seeing the playing field the way a Win-Trapreneur does. You win by seeing what's not working in the systems around you and building your value around solving that. All right, build your value, what you're valuable about, what you're all about. Build it around that. Like, again, use me as an example. You hear me every single day, regularly using what I've learned as a football player and applying it to the folks that I want to serve day in and day out. And I encourage you folks to do the same thing. All right. So again, I told you today's Win-Trapreneur Wednesday was going to be a little bit different. I got to prep myself a little better, obviously, because whenever I start talking football, I'm guaranteed to get off topic, because there's so much material out there that I can point you in the direction of when it comes to using direct examples from the football world. So, again, we're here every day. Tomorrow we'll actually be, we'll do a recap episode from Monday, Tuesday, and then today. So I'll probably get to some of the things that I might have missed as I review what I said and all that kind of stuff. But main website to check out to dive deeper into everything I'm doing, it's makeyourmove.com. It's makeyourmove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.